I don't need any more anxiety. You mentioned a couple of kinds of anxiety there. I don't need that layered onto my existing anxiety. You got to understand why consumers feel this way.
Now, they are basically saying that the company is sacrificing margins, and right now, when you're sacrificing margins with lack of demand, that's not going to be good for your outlook for the company here.
Interesting to me is Tesla's just had this extraordinary year. I call it the tale of two cities, where they produced $97 billion in revenue in 2023. They sold 1.8 million cars. That's more EVs than anybody, including BYD last year. They dominate the US market.
All that and more. So let's get to it. Tesla stock is down slightly in the pre-market, a little under 0.25%, sitting at 193.35. I'm still on the mind of placing protective puts. I question how much further Tesla could actually slide year to date, but I've seen it happen before. Should the stock fall another 10% or so, I'll be looking to play some long calls out into 2026.
Shares of global automaker Stellantis are at an all-time high as the company's North America brand jumping into the EV game this year. Ram, Jeep, and Dodge are set to roll out pure electric vehicles. Stellantis' CEO Carlos Tavares is here joining us on set with our own Phil LeBeau. Phil, take it away, my friend.
Well, I know you guys have a lot of questions as well, especially when it comes to EVs, Chinese automakers, their expansion around the world. Let's start with the most obvious one, which is when you look at the market right now, not just the auto market, but the economy and the market here in the U.S., how comfortable are you?
I'm quite comfortable on the fact that people want to protect their freedom of mobility. They want safe, clean, and affordable mobility, and we are here to offer that and to serve. So I'm quite positive about the market. I think people will continue to protect their freedom of mobility, and for that, there is no other better device than an automobile.
Well, that's true, but is it going to be internal combustion engine? Is it going to be a hybrid? Is it going to be an EV? You know about the debate that's going on right now. EV market is slowing down in terms of the adoption rate here in the United States. Does that continue at least through the rest of this year and several years? What do you see?
In the future, all cars will be electric. In the future, all cars will be autonomous, regardless of what it looks like from now until then.
What I see is that to make the EV spark, you need to align a certain number of stars. You need, of course, clean energy. You need a very dense charging network that people can see so that they remove range anxiety. They need a great product with a very high range, right? Like the products we are bringing to the market, 500 miles of range. That should be enough. And you need affordability. And what is at stake right now is affordability. That's the major star that is right now not totally aligned with the three other ones.
500 miles of... Unless you're traveling across multiple city limits, across state lines, you really don't need 500 miles of range. Be nice to have, I guess, but if you have a robust charging network, it really shouldn't be that big a deal. And as far as charging you can see, if you're not looking for electric vehicle charging, you're never ever going to see it because it's not on your radar. They should be where people are. Grocery stores, popular restaurant chains. We need to rethink the way we refuel these vehicles. And you best believe, price is coming down.
He's shaking his head over here.
No, it's a lot. You got a lot to do. You got a lot to do. You got to make it much more. You know, I don't need any more anxiety. You mentioned a couple of kinds of anxiety there. I don't need that layered onto my existing anxiety. You got to understand why consumers feel this way.
Sure.
You have to. Sure. So you're going to get to 500 miles. When is that going to happen?
It's going to happen this year.
By magic?
Okay. And then the density of not having to worry about being able to find a charge. When is it? At this point, I'd still have anxiety. I'm getting anxious talking to you.
You wouldn't have any anxiety if you just asked your Tesla where the nearest charging station is. It'll navigate you to it immediately and precondition your batteries so you don't have to wait there as long as you would in another vehicle.
I think that the car makers are now bringing a range that should remove that anxiety, in addition to the fact that you need, with your eyes, to see where the charging units are. The charging units need to come to your customer journey, to your daily journey, without you having to look for them.
You don't need to look for them. The car will do it for you. Well, maybe not their car. But like I said before, we need to rethink how we fuel these vehicles. Just like how I don't care about gas stations anymore, I barely even see them, and they're everywhere. But it's as if I've removed them from my brain as points of interest. I know they're there, I just don't give a shit. The same thing is happening with people with electric vehicle charging. You have to know they're there. How many Teslas do you see around you? You know they're there. Question is, do you give a shit?
We really still are. I'm either going to buy an ICE car or a Tesla. That's still where we are right now.
Ding, 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 ding. Tell him what he's won, Johnny. Your mother right. Most consumers here in North America have two choices. You're either gonna buy a ICE hybrid mixture, or you're gonna go ahead and bite the bullet and see what's so special about these Tesla vehicles. And given how cheap they are with the added tax break, well, what can I say? It shouldn't take you all day to recognize sunshine.
I don't want to buy an electric Jeep.
Yeah, I know this year, Stellantis is going to bring to the US market only 8 new pure BEVs this year. And Stellantis in the world will have, by the end of this year, 48 BEV models, which is half of the total model portfolio of the company.
Why? Why? You can't build one right. Why do you need that many models? That kind of complexity. It can't be good for your bottom line. All that unnecessary complexity? What do you mean these parts can't go with these parts? Like Elon said, manufacturing at scale is difficult. That much complexity just compounds the situation as it is. You can't expect to make any money off these battery electric vehicles, and they're going to be subpar to what Tesla's offering.
To fix the affordability problem, we need to be finding a way to design to cost our products so that you sell BEVs at the price of ICEs. That is going to put extreme pressure on our companies, not only on the supply chain.
In other words, if you can't do it, you're not going to survive.
Somebody will. And the guys who are now ready to offer that in the world, not in the US, but in the world, are the Chinese. The Chinese are able.
So you think there's a merger to be done with the Chinese? Do you think that the U.S. government would ever allow that? The Europeans would ever allow?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the guys now, the Chinese, have a 30% competitive edge on X-Works on their BEVs. So they are able to sell their products with one segment gap, which means you sell a C-segment car at the price of a B-segment, which solves the problem of affordability. Now, what is going to be their stance?
And all these governments are putting tariffs on everything to prevent that.
Exactly, but that will generate inflation inside of the bubble.
Right.
If you do that, inflation inside of the bubble will make things worse rather than better. This country has seen the Japanese invasion in the 70s, then the Koreans. Are you going to see a third wave of Asians, which would be the Chinese? I don't know. I'm opening the question.
Let me go ahead and answer that question for you. You might as well go ahead and expect that to occur. It's better to be prepared and not have to worry about it than not to worry about it and not be prepared.
I said, look into the crystal ball and what do you see in terms of consolidation? And you gave me a number of major automakers that you think we're eventually headed towards. Tell these guys what you see, looking down the road. And I don't know if you outside, was that 10 years you're looking down the road?
Yes, I think that given this pressure on affordability, 10 years down the road, possibly in the planet, there will be around 5 big car makers in the world, around 5. Stellantis will be one of them. I can tell you, I'm very confident about what our people are doing. By the way, congratulations to them.
Stellantis is going to be one of the 5 major vehicle makers in the next 10 years. Yeah, I call bullshit on that.
Look at this. If you look at major automakers, how many would you say we have legitimately major around the world right now? 15, 20?
Yeah, 15 to 20.
You could argue, too, that's too many.
So he's saying it gets down to 5. You pick the 5 that are going to survive. He says it's going to be Stellantis. Does Toyota survive? What happens to Honda? Does Honda not survive? Somebody takes Honda over at some point? What happens between GM and Ford? What happens with Volkswagen? And BYD is in there.
In the next 10 years, the top 5 automakers, starting with number 5, I'm going to say XPeng. Number 4, I'm going to give it to the Hyundai-Kia situation. At 3, we're going to say Rivian. At number 2, we're going to go with BYD. And at number 1, with about a fifth of all vehicle production in 2030, you know who it is. It's Tesla. And the rest of that list is contingent on whether or not the other companies license Tesla's vehicle software. But I suppose the future isn't written in stone. There's still time to change it.
Yeah, it's a mess.
I think it's an interesting prediction.
It's fascinating.
All right. And then Phillips Securities also making a call on Tesla today, too, right?
Yep, definitely. They actually downgraded that to a neutral from accumulate as well, with a price target of $175. Now, they are basically saying that the company is sacrificing margins. And right now, when you're sacrificing margins with lack of demand, that's not going to be good for your outlook for the company here. They do believe that the long-term thesis still remains, as Tesla is still working on the software side of their business, which could provide a lot greater margins, especially when you're talking about FSD. But once again, in the near term, because of the macroeconomic factors impacting this company and their ability to be able to try to cut prices to remain competitive in this space, they just believe that that's going to be a headwind in the near term.
I still have a 2024 fair value estimate in the bear case of $315. That was downgraded from last year, adjusting my enterprise value for the company in the long term, inputting the slightly lower expectations for 2024, still came out with $315 per share in the bear case.
Interesting to me is Tesla's just had this extraordinary year. I call it the tale of two cities, where they produced 97 billion in revenue in 2023. They sold 1.8 million cars. That's more EVs than anybody, including BYD last year. They dominate the US market, 55% market share, more than everybody else combined. But growth slowing, and everybody can see it. And they need to figure out how quickly they can get to the next growth curve. Right now, it looks like they need that $25,000 car up and out into the market as soon as possible. That's going to be Elon Musk's best big test. We'll see whether he can meet it.
Ding, 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 ding. Tell him what he's won, Johnny. Your mother. Right. The next generation vehicle will broaden the total addressable market, sending demand through the roof, not just for that vehicle, but for all of their lineup. The real question will become, can Tesla keep pace with that production?
Well, and we know historically that he has a lot of balls in the air at once, typically.
Pause.
Right now, this struggle to maybe move the company to try to get more voting rights, is that a distraction at a time when, to your point, growth is slowing?
I think Tesla and Elon need to focus on one thing and only one thing. I think 2024 is going to be rough. They need to scramble to find the next growth wave. $25,000 car, at least 18 months out. That may be a game changer, might get them back to 30 or 40% growth. What are you going to do in the next 18 months? And I think they got 3 shots on goal. They've got the self-driving vehicle with robo-taxis, probably still 3 to 5 years out.
Debatable. Version 12 being released to the early beta testers. Now again, not perfect, but the rate of improvement is absolutely staggering and only going to improve with more miles driven. We're in the middle of February, people. The rest of 2024 has a long way to go.
They've got an energy division, which most people don't even think about, and that is doing $6 billion last year, on the way to maybe $8 or $9 billion this year, going 50%. That could be a $20 billion division. And then they've got the global charging network, because everybody has basically thrown up the white flag, if you will, signed a deal with Tesla to be able to use their global charging network. They've got to make one of these 3 things work to get the growth cycle back. That's what Elon should be evaluated on. That's what the board should be setting his comp on. In my opinion, it always needs to be performance-based.
For 2024, FSD, I agree. The energy division growing at 50%, supercharger growth. Yeah, I guess those 3 things need to happen. I think all of them will happen. I suppose it might be a little too early to be talking about Optimus, but let's go ahead and include Optimus in the compensation plan. There is no shortage of activities for Elon Musk and the Tesla team, but FSD, the energy division, and the supercharger network is a good base. I like something about the 4680 cells as well, but you know, Tesla has a lot going on before they introduce the next generation vehicle. So many potential catalysts. In conclusion, Stellantis is taking the variety approach. They're just gonna throw battery electric vehicles at the consumer and see what sticks. In the meantime, they're not gonna make any money off of those things and probably backpedal, much like Ford and GM did. More Tesla downgrades. Expect more to come for the rest of 2024, but I'll be standing firm on my fair value estimate of $315 in the bear case. To be fair, I do have Tesla at 20% margins for the year. That made me a little optimistic, but I also have them in my bear case only selling 1.7 million vehicles. And Tesla has a bunch of balls in the air. Pause. Chief among those balls happens to be the next generation vehicle. Until that catalyst comes to fruition, Tesla has other things to worry about as well. FSD, their robust energy division, and mapping out more and more supercharging. Tesla has the entire battery electric vehicle market in North America on their shoulders. But what else is new? That's all I've got for you today. Be easy.